Welcome back to the I Come First podcast, where we dive into the raw, unfiltered experiences of life, love, and everything in regards to personal growth. I'm your host, Amie Barsky, and today we're exploring a topic that deeply resonates with every single human being on this planet. I am convinced that no one escapes this particular topic. What am I talking about? The end of relationships and why they can be so dang challenging to recognize when it's time to walk away. Like, how do you know when it's served its purpose? And how do you find the strength to move forward? That's what we're up to today, along with understanding of why so many of us, self included here, stay long past the expiration dates when it comes to relationships. And I'm also going to share with you 3 clear signs that a relationship is no longer supporting your evolution. Before we dive in, I want to share a powerful story that a friend of mine emailed to me back in 2004 when I was going through a very challenging heartbreak. It was so powerful that I printed this story out and I've kept it this entire time. Now, full transparency, I rediscovered it the other day when I was cleaning out my very messy desk, and it so inspired me to share it with you today. Unfortunately, I don't know who the author is. However, the words captured here, they are so essential when it comes to relationships and growth, and I felt compelled to share it with you. So let me read it to you. All human beings are pointed towards growth and expansion. Relationships are, for each of us, the most profound vehicle for personal development. The process of self creation is a continual forward moving process, and either intuitively or consciously, we all gravitate towards those people who can assist us in our process. In the same fashion, when a given step in our process has been completed, we find ourselves consciously or unconsciously testing the limits of our relationships to see if our present partner will be the appropriate ally for forthcoming stages in our personal development. However, because of the old assumptions that only forever counts, we have not been able to think of the endings as signs that a cycle has been completed. Instead, we tend to assume that the endings in and of themselves are bad. The truth is that although endings always involve us in grief and pain, whatever comes into our lives and transforms us gets to be celebrated. We don't curse the person who brings us flowers because a few days later the flowers wilt and we have to throw them away. We celebrate the gift, we say thank you, and we're glad that we had a chance to enjoy the bouquet of flowers while it lasted. And just in the same way, we need to start thinking of relationships as having lifetimes, lifetimes which come to an end in their own due season. We need to revamp the myth, which implies that the only valid relationship is the one we take with us to the grave. We also need to be thankful for whenever a relationship is given to us. We need to be grateful and rejoice for it. Even when a relationship ends, we should celebrate the fact that something has been exchanged, which has been of value to both people in this relationship. When we come to the end of our journey together, we should acknowledge that we are being delivered to the next place in our lives, much more safe, more whole, more at peace, and more expanded and complete as persons than we were when we entered this relationship. The selves who made the union are in a much better condition at its end, even though the suffering and the confusion of the ending often makes it feel difficult for us to actually see that. If we look only at the relationship, yeah, of course we must grieve. But if we look at the persons who loved one another, then we can celebrate. Along with saying that the relationship has ended, something is gone, we should also tell ourselves that something wonderful has been accomplished here. At the end of a relationship, there's a transformation of human beings, people who have changed so much that they are now ready for the next miraculous stage of their personal development. Wow. Now, this piece resonated so deeply with me then and even now because it reflects my own most recent relationship and my experience with my ex-husband. For years, I stayed in a marriage that had completed its cycle, and I knew this. However, I was trying to convince myself that the commitment meant enduring everything and anything. Looking back now, I can see how both of us were caught in patterns that kept us so small and that prevented us from evolving to our fuller selves. I see it so clearly now. And it is fascinating how many women I work with who recognize themselves in this same exact story. They tell me, Amie, I knew for years that something wasn't right and that I needed to walk away, but I just didn't have the courage to leave. I get it. I totally resonate with that. Society has conditioned us to believe that maintaining a relationship, especially a marriage, is something more valuable than maintaining our own growth and well-being. And so today I want to share with you 3 clear signs that a relationship is no longer supporting your evolution. Sign number 1 is when your partner dismisses or minimizes your achievements. For instance, when you're excited about a new opportunity or you're proud of your growth and they respond with indifference or a subtle put down. And sometimes this isn't obvious. It might look like a change in the subject when you are sharing good news. It also might look like comments, something like, don't get too excited, or you know what, don't get ahead of yourself. Number 2 is they reminisce about your old self. They frequently bring up how you used to be, especially during the times when you were relying on them a lot, when you were dependent or you might have been struggling. This can sound like something like, oh, you've changed, or I missed how close we used to be, right? That passive aggressiveness. And number 3, they create chaos during your progress. When you're making positive changes in your own life, maybe you've started working with a coach, maybe you're pursuing a new career or developing healthy boundaries, they suddenly generate drama or a crisis that demands your immediate attention, as if they unconsciously need to pull you back into your old patterns just as you are starting to take off. You know what? Here's what's true. Relationships do have seasons. Some are meant to last a lifetime, and others are meant to teach us crucial and critical lessons and then release us into the next phase of our own journey. The problem isn't the ending. It's in our resistance to recognizing when that season has passed. Many of us stay far too long because we've been taught that leaving equals failure. But what if, just what if we reframe this entirely? What if, as the story suggests, we could see every single relationship as a gift, even the ones that end? When I finally found the courage to end my marriage, it wasn't because I stopped caring about my ex-husband. It was because I finally started caring enough about myself to acknowledge that we were both being called to very different paths of growth in our life. I can't speak for him, but it taught me invaluable lessons about love, about what I valued. It allowed me to get so clear on my standards and about what I truly needed in partnership and how to actually ask for it. I especially love the part of the story where it says we need to start thinking of relationships as having lifetimes, which come to an end in their own due season. And now, this isn't about devaluing commitment or taking relationships lightly. It's about honoring the natural cycles of growth and transformation that are inherent in the human connection in and of itself. The reality is, some relationships are like the flowers mentioned in the story. They're beautiful, they're meaningful, they're temporary. I like to think that others are like perennial plants that return season after season, growing deeper in their roots. The key is discerning which is which. and having the courage to honor the truth. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Your growth is not selfish. Your evolution is not a betrayal. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for both ourselves and for others is to acknowledge when a relationship has completed its cycle. If you're in that space of questioning right now, please know that you're not alone. Your intuition is speaking to you for a reason. I invite you to trust it and to honor it, and to remember that making space for what's next often requires releasing what's complete right now. So, thank you so much for joining. I hope you found value in this message. And until next time, keep growing, keep evolving, and keep choosing you. I'll be back next week with another insightful episode, and I will see you then.